What if I told you that your biggest enemy isn't fear, failure, or even your critics? It's your own mind. Not because it's weak, but because you let it run wild. You let it talk you out of action. You let it rehearse imaginary problems. You let it delay, doubt, analyze, and distract. And before you know it, you're stuck. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just overthinking. And overthinking is the silent killer of greatness. Because action builds empires. Thought without action builds nothing. Let's break this down. Overthinking is fear in disguise. It's the brain saying, let's stay safe. It wants certainty. It wants guarantees. But life doesn't give guarantees. Only chances, only moments, only doors that open and close fast. And when you're stuck thinking, that door shuts. Here's what no one tells you. You can't think your way into clarity. You act your way into it. You make a move. You get feedback. You adjust. You move again. That's how growth happens. Not in the mind, but in motion. Even in Islam, action is everything. Faith without deeds is empty. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, although both are good." Strength doesn't come from thought. It comes from motion. So why do people overthink? Because thinking feels safe. You're in control. You can imagine a perfect future. You can avoid mistakes. You can delay responsibility. But here's the trap. You feel like you're making progress, but you're just running in circles. It's like rocking in a chair. Lots of movement, zero forward motion. Meanwhile, life moves on, opportunities pass, others act, and you keep planning. Overthinking is a form of self-sabotage dressed up as intelligence. It's the mind pretending to be smart when it's just afraid. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who wanted to start a business. He read books, took courses, spoke to mentors, drew up plans. He waited for the perfect idea, the perfect time, the perfect confidence. 10 years passed. His friend, who knew less, just started, made mistakes, lost money, learned, adjusted. 10 years later, the friend owned 3 companies. The first man? Still planning. This happens everywhere. In fitness, in relationships, in career. We wait for the mood, for clarity, for a sign. But success isn't a sign. It's a step. You move. You learn. You grow. Not because it's perfect, because it's progress. Now think about this. How many things in your life would be better if you just started? If you just made the call, sent the message, took the walk, made the move? Not perfectly, but deliberately. That's the difference between dreamers and doers. Dreamers think endlessly. Doers decide quickly. They trust themselves enough to try. They don't need all the answers. They just need movement. Because once you move, momentum takes over. Here's the law of action. One small move kills 1,000 doubts. Most people are paralyzed by imaginary outcomes. They worry what people will say. What if it fails? What if I look stupid? Here's the truth. You will fail. You will look foolish. You will doubt yourself. And that's okay. Because failure is data. Foolishness is freedom. And doubt is proof you're outside your comfort zone. Let that sink in. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by doing what feels scary, uncertain, and uncomfortable. That's where your power is. Even the Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In other words, don't talk, walk. Your mind wants you to wait until you feel ready. Your future wants you to act before you are. Which one will you listen to? Let's go deeper. When you act, you face resistance. But you also build resilience. Each rep makes you stronger. Each step makes you clearer. Each decision builds your instinct. You stop needing permission. You stop overthinking. You start trusting your own judgment. That's how leaders are built. Not by thinking more, by doing more. Let me be blunt. The world doesn't reward ideas. It rewards execution. Your idea isn't unique, but your action is. Thousands of people have your dream. But few will wake up early, show up daily, and move when they're unsure. Be the few. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by doing what feels scary, uncertain, and uncomfortable. That's where your power is. And don't stop after the first move. Because the mind will try to pull you back. It'll whisper, "That's enough for today." It'll tell you, "You did something, now rest." But that voice isn't rest. It's retreat. Real change comes through repetition, not intensity, consistency. The warrior doesn't train once. He sharpens his blade daily, even when it's already sharp. You must do the same. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get used to the silence of no results. And still keep going. That's where transformation happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's boring, when no one's watching, when you're not sure it's working, and you keep going anyway. Because that's what separates the average from the exceptional. They move, and move again, and again, until the motion becomes identity. They stop needing motivation, because now they are momentum. This is the power of disciplined movement. It rewires your brain. It hardens your will. It builds unshakable confidence. Because you've proven to yourself, you act, no matter what. And this mindset, it spills into everything. Relationships, business, spirituality, health. Suddenly, you're not the one waiting for the perfect moment. You're the one creating it. Because you've realized, the door won't open on its own. You have to kick it down. And if it doesn't budge, build your own. There is no perfect path. There is only motion and refinement. You plan less. Punch harder. Fail faster. Because each punch teaches you what the mirror never will. Who you are when things don't go your way. And guess what? That's the real confidence. Not the fake kind from books or speeches, but the raw, forged kind, built in the furnace of action. And once you start, keep going, even when it's slow, even when it's silent, even when no one claps, because that's when most people quit. Not from failure, but from boredom. They wanted fireworks. They got repetition. They expected applause. They got discipline. But discipline is the real magic. It's not sexy. It's not dramatic. It's daily. It's quiet. It's relentless. The man who can show up without reward wins. Because eventually, the world catches up. Not to his ideas, but to his consistency. And while others try to go viral, he goes deeper. He digs roots, builds habits, becomes unshakable. That's the edge. Because overthinkers chase inspiration, but doers become it. You don't need motivation when you're movement itself. You don't wait for clarity. You create it by acting through chaos. Your mind will resist this. It'll say, "But what if you're wrong?" Good. That means you're moving, because staying still might feel safe. But it's just dying slowly. There is no growth in overanalysis. There is no success in perfectionism. There is only power in imperfect motion. And here's the deeper truth. The more you act, the more you trust yourself. Because every action builds evidence, evidence that you can rely on you. And that is the foundation of unstoppable confidence. You stop outsourcing belief. You stop asking for permission. You stop apologizing for trying, because you've done the work. And no one can take that from you. So from this moment forward, make a vow. You will act, you will move, you will build, even in the fog, even in fear, even when no one believes in you yet, especially then. Because movement isn't just productivity, It's identity. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. So do. One day, you'll look back, not at the moments you planned perfectly, but at the moments you moved imperfectly. Not when you were ready, but when you were brave. That's what will define you. Not how well you thought, but how far you stepped, even with shaking hands. Because thinking doesn't change your life. Doing does. Send the message. Post the work. Make the call. Record the video. Apply. Show up. Begin. Not because it's the best day, but because it's today. And here's the thing most people never understand. You're not stuck because you lack a plan. You're stuck because you won't take the first step. So stop waiting for the stars to align. You are the alignment. You are the sign. The world bends to movers, not thinkers. So from now on, act like it. Move like someone who deserves momentum. Decide like someone who's done doubting. Build like someone who's done begging for clarity. You don't need more time. You need more movement. So move. Now every day, every hour, every time your mind says, wait, do the opposite. Because that's when power is reclaimed. People think they need a massive action. One heroic leap. One viral post. One perfect moment. But real transformation? It's built on boring repetition. You want to change your life? You don't need a breakthrough. You need a rhythm. Wake up. Move. Repeat. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You need consistency. You don't need motivation. You need discipline. You don't need clarity. You need motion that creates it. The most successful people in the world? They don't always feel inspired. They just don't stop. They show up when it's hard. They act when it's uncertain. They build momentum like it's sacred. Because it is. Every single day, you're building a story. With every choice, you're telling the world who you are. Not with your ideas, but with your actions. Overthinking is a form of fear. Let's be honest. Overthinking is a way to avoid pain, to avoid failure, to avoid embarrassment. It's fear with a suit on. It says, let me be smart, but it's really saying, let me hide. So let's call it what it is. Cowardice wearing a crown. And the only antidote? Action. Action doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always feel clear, but it's always honest. Because when you act, reality speaks back. You don't need more thoughts. You need more feedback. You don't need more confidence. You need more evidence. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. It comes after motion, not before. So if you want to stop feeling stuck, you need to stop living in your head and start living in your limbs. Move your body, move your hands, move your words. Let the motion lead. The war against hesitation. There's a war happening every day, not outside, but inside you, between your momentum and your hesitation. One wants to move, one wants to wait. One builds a future, one protects your ego, and whichever one you feed, wins. Here's a brutal truth. Most people aren't lazy. They're just paralyzed by the fear of starting ugly. They think, what if I fail? What if they laugh? What if it's not perfect? Because once you start acting like the person you want to be, the world starts treating you like that person. But as long as you overthink, hesitate, or procrastinate, the world mirrors your uncertainty. Don't let your genius rot in planning. Bring it to life with bold movement. You want confidence? Move. You want clarity? Move. You want results? Move. Overthinking is a mental cage. Action is the key. Break the loop. Pick one thing you've been putting off and do it. Now, not perfectly, not confidently, just honestly. Because once you do, the loop breaks, the fog clears, and your mind stops controlling you. You become the one in charge. Not your fear, not your doubt, not your thoughts. You. And that's when you become unstoppable. Think less. Move more. Your future is waiting. It won't wait forever. Start today.